great to see you. So I'm asking that you guys keep your cameras and your mics muted until after the presentation so that Carla can take up the entire screen. We will have a Q&A after. You may ask your questions directly after the talk. Turn on your cameras and microphones. Or if you're camera shy, you may also post it in the comments and Carla will read it. And for those who are joining us on LinkedIn Live, you may post your comments in the comment section and I will forward that to Carla. Everybody, both in this call and on live, please also leave your networking links if you'd like to connect and say hi and tell us where you're from. So I think we'll wait about 3 or 4 more minutes before we start. Yeah, please in the chat tell us where you're from. And Carla, if you like, you can start by telling us a little bit about yourself and how you got to talk here today.
Yes, sure. So, well, hi everyone. My name is Carla. I will tell you more in the presentation, but I'm a visual designer by training, by my history. I've always worked in visual design and then little by little moving more into experience design and interaction design. That's where I am today. I am also a cultural anthropologist, something I've studied after design because I really felt I wanted to understand more about human behaviors and why we do the things the way we do and how is it going in other parts of the world. You know, what is our way of connecting and socializing and living together. And this is really helpful as well in my work as a designer. It's greatly influenced my approach to design research, for example, but more generally to understanding of human behaviors. And I am also on the side working for the IXDA, so the Association for Interaction Design in the Netherlands. So the association has been a little bit quiet for a few years. So we are creating other more events and federating the community again. So keep an eye on that as well. Something will come up very soon. And I am here today because Candice found me. You know, she is very good at spotting the right people or finding. She's very, intentional in driving this event, which is great. She has a lot of passion and a lot of energy to manage all of this alone. So I don't know how she does, but she does. And so that's how I landed here, and I'm very happy to be sharing some of my ideas today with you all, and hopefully to keep the conversation going because I don't have all the solutions. So I'm going to be talking about something I observe. So I would like to hear from you as well, and then hopefully sparking some interest and also picking your brain and maybe giving you some food for thoughts in your everyday practice as designers.
Yeah, thank you very much, Carla. So I think, it's 5 past. I'm going to mute myself now, and if you're ready, you can actually start with your talk, and then we'll see each other at the end.
Yes. Absolutely. And for now, I will not be seeing the chat live, but keep putting your comments in the chat because as Candice was saying in the beginning, I will answer later. And there will be a moment for an actual Q&A at the end. So first of all, that's me. So I am Carla. As I said, I am Italian, which you have already understood by my accent. And I am a design director at Frog, Netherlands. So not this frog, actually, not even this frog. But this frog, that's the frog I work for. And I don't know if you know already who Frog is as a company, but in any case, I'm going to give you a little introduction. So let's start from the basics. Frog is a design consultancy that was founded in 1969 by this guy, Helmut Asslinger, and he had a very clear vision of design in his mind, which we all live by till today. And is really that, the status quo of design at that time was that form follow function. So your design should follow a specific function. Well, for him, it was very different. For him, it was form should follow emotion. So already from that point on, he was understanding that what matters in design is not so much the shape of things, but is the experience that comes with that. So how this has an impact on the experience of the users. And this is not only revolutionary at the time, but still extremely relevant today. So it's a very long a company with a very long life. And when I said in the previous slide that Frog has always wanted to be a challenger, that's what I mean. This was almost 41 years ago. Actually is 41 years ago, the 30th of August, 1982. Helmut Asslinger was presenting the prototype of the MacBook to Steve Jobs. And I'm presenting from one of those computers today. So this one was made of plastic and cardboard. Now this product not only is true, but it's everybody has one. And this what a computer is looking like in our mind immediately, right? So that's what I mean when I say it was a challenger brand already 40 years ago. This was in discussion with Steve Jobs. So the company Frog started really as a product design company in the first place. So in the 70s, form follows emotion. That is still our way of conceiving design, but it was mainly related to objects, right? So the company started in Germany and then very quickly got the attention of Steve Jobs, that invited the company to move to the US and open an office in San Francisco that we still have. And from that point, product design was picking up. So then it was the time to work for Sony, and then for in automotive, in many different industries and fields. But of course, the coming of the digital era was already there. So very quickly, because we were already conceiving projects basing our ideation on the emotional result we want to get, very naturally, we moved into digital design. And then already from the 2000, Frog grew by acquiring another company in digital design. And then we started working much more on the digital side. And today, our focus is really on building regenerative futures and really defining convergent journeys that mix physical and digital experience. That's what we have anyway in our everyday life, right? So anyway, the underlining theme of all of our work during the decades you have seen in the slide before is really one. So the power of emotion. How do we work with emotions? How do we design for emotional engagement? And this looks something that we can almost write on a mug, to keep on our desk. Form follows emotion sounds very nicely. Maybe a t-shirt as well could be nice, but it's really what it is about, what design is about. And what strikes me is that when we don't design with that in mind, form follows function, which is the common statement around design, is that really is an excuse for shitty design and boring in human architecture. And I cannot agree more. So it has really resonates deeply with me, because that's all I want to avoid, shitty design and boring. So before we move on, there are two questions. So this was for Frog. Now moving on to my particular topic for today, I'm going to answer a couple of questions that I got asked before, always, much often. So the first one is, how did you become a designer? Well, to answer this question, we have to go back in time a little bit, exactly to 1997. On the 2nd of May, when Saturn enters a retrograde motion. And this was the moment where the planets aligned and I saw the light and I really understood I wanted to be a designer. So that's how it was. But then the second question that will come up to you is, why did you want to be a designer? Well, that's very easy. First, I'm curious to hear why you wanted to be a designer. So maybe put this in the chat and I will have a look. I'm always ask these questions because I'm very curious to hear from the people. I'm doing a mental mapping of why we want to be a designer. In my case, it's because design can change the world. As simple as that. I can make a difference in the life of people. I can make their life better. I can improve their quality of life. So that's why I wanted to be a designer. And I did. So I did my studies. I started working. Life goes by years after year and everything goes well until the moment reality hits. Yeah, badly. So, you know, a few years in, I started to see some reality happening. First thing, deadlines. And there is no wonder that why they are called deadlines, right? Then productivity, the quest for efficiency. We have to go fast. We have to deliver fast. The quality, yes, is good, but you know, sometimes doesn't matter so much in the end. So let's just come to a conclusion. And so many people wanted to comment on my work, many comments, undesired and unasked, that were coming from everywhere. Everybody seems to be a designer at some point in their life or in their day even. And so I felt very much aggressed and always a little bit defensive and trying to really, you know, stay strong on my feet and say, wait, no, I have to be at this table of discussion. You're always fighting for my legitimacy somehow. And this, you know, not only doesn't feel right, but made me think about the moment where Bob Dylan was asked to sing in We Are the World. I don't know if you remember that, but I'm going to share with you. That's how I felt.
Of the music.
Okay. Let me, but it doesn't matter. It's not that bad. Everybody was saying we are the world except from him. So that's the kind of discomfort I was feeling, right? This kind of moment where what's happening? What's going on exactly? So I think we all felt like Bob Dylan at least once in our life, like, why am I here exactly? I don't understand what's going on. I was supposed to be doing something else, you know, that was the premise. I was going to change the world. No. So then really I had to sit down and think a little bit of what was going on, you know, because what happened in between? Everything seems to be so clear and now is so confused. Everything seems to be so purposeful. And now I feel like I don't have a lot of purpose, or it's not so, you know, intentional and clear as it was when I started and when I wanted to be a designer. So what's going on? So I don't have all the answers, of course, and by no means this is the only reasons, but looking at my experience and what I have going through and my personal career, there are a few things that I have understood, two in particular, that brought me to that point of breaking down. So the first thing that comes to my mind is that the double diamond is a scam. So now you're going to say, well, what are you saying? Well, let me explain. Clearly is a model that works very well on paper. And, you know, frameworks like this are great on a slide. You put on a slide, you present to a client, they will agree with you. They will immediately understand where you start, where you end, what do you want to do? Okay, we diverge, we converge, then we look for a solution, and then we decide which one it is, and then we go for that. It looks fantastic and really helps entering in a conversation and giving other people that are not designers an understanding of what you want to do with them. Fine. Beside that, though, the reality of life when I am in the workplace, when I am on projects, where I discuss with clients, if I look really at the behind the scenes of the dynamic of work that we have as designers in the companies where we are, is really not like this picture perfect thing. It really doesn't look like that. So I sit down and I said, okay, let me redesign a little bit the double diamond and let's see what I experience, right? Is it so fantastically symmetrical and no, it will look a lot more like this. So very much like an arrow, very much compressed. There is not that much breadth for divergence. You know, we really have to come to a conclusion a bit faster, and we have to find solutions. So we want to reassure our clients that we know what we are doing and that we have an answer right now. And I think it's a bit of a shame. For me, at least, it's really a pity, because the funniest part for me is really the divergence. It's where I can experience more things, where I can think about the problem from different perspectives, where I can investigate it much longer and take the time I need before I say, okay, now we are talking about this is what I really need to focus on. And that's when I converge. So this part is actually the funniest part, but it's also the most uncomfortable part. So our brain, and I don't blame on, just KPIs, etc., but really our brain is hardwired in a very simple way. Our brain likes repetitive things, likes things that it can understand and it can manage very well. So doesn't live very well in a divergent part because it's too messed up. Our brain loves knowing what comes next, feeling smart. So we already naturally want to shrink down that part in every area of our life. You know, if we have 3, 4, 5 people commenting on something, we go mad. We want to have one answer. We don't want 5 answers. We want one answer. That's how we are hardwired. So, of course, there is no reason why this should be different in a design process. We try to simplify everything to the maximum possible to give reassurance to ourselves that we are in control. And I started to notice that pattern of getting into my comfort zone and not shaking up my habits too much in other areas of my life. So, for example, when I don't know something, what do? I Google it, one click, it's done. I don't have to open million books, go to the library, I go on Google. Easy. Or it's dinner time. I have absolutely no envy for cooking. Well, I click and I order an Uber Eats. Or whenever anything happens around me for which I need some support, that's what I do. Pick up my phone. There is always an app that can help me on something, or there is any way the solution is in there. So if I look at this combination of what is happening in the workplace, what is increased and enhanced by my way of living my own life, which is the way everybody lives his life, because I think I'm not the only one who picks up the phone 3 million times in the day. He's on Google, books things on through apps in one click, and that's it. So this combination of factors comes with a very practical result for us as a designer, which means that the path from problem to solution that used to be much longer, it used to take us much more time to find solutions for the things, for the problems we had as a designer, but in general in life, has been cut off very consistently, like this. So now this divergent phase has become from this to this. And there are some consequences in that, adding more technology to everything we do in the design process, adding boards over boards, jumping straight into Figma when we have a brief. Yeah, of course, has simplified and accelerated everything, but with some great damages. This in the first place. So the loss of this space for imagination, for thinking, for investigation that now, technology, don't get me wrong, has done, very good things for us as a society. We have the good health we have because of technological solutions, but there are other areas where this impact to me is negative, and this is one. And why is so important for me to keep this pattern very long between the problem and the solution is because we are designers, so we need to have a ecosystemic view of what we are designing. We cannot just consider this. Okay, today we are talking about this topic and this one only. We have to look at how this topic integrates in the life of the company we are working for, the client we have, or even the ecosystem of other systems where this one is part of. So I like particularly this quote from Eero Saarinen, and it's very clear, he says that you cannot design a chair without considering the room where this chair is going to be, or you cannot design without considering the house where this room is going to be, or even the environment where this house is going to be built. And it's very true. So you cannot consider just this and forgetting everything else. Otherwise, you are a problem solver, but you are not a designer. That's a radical shift in mentality that at some point I had forgotten. And then the second thing I looked at is that by doing this extreme simplification of, pattern from problem to solution, there is something else that we have unfortunately cut off, both in society and in our work process as designer, and this human interaction. Now, I really want to hear how many of you really sit at the table with your colleagues, brainstorm together, take their time together. Not many. We have very efficient alignment sessions of 30 minutes, and then everybody is going back to his own desk alone. And if I look at the apps that I was mentioning before, that's the same thing. So me as a designer in interaction and in experience, at some point, I have been responsible for this, for the moment where instead of designing for a community of humans, I'm designing for one human who sits alone in front of a screen and interacts with a device or with an app alone. So, you see what I mean, where I want to go? So, I think we have unfortunately cut off also a lot of human interaction design in the process of making our life easier. So what do we do from here? These two realizations in my life were a little bit shaking the ground I was walking on, and I was, so now what do I do? Well, thanks God, planets aligned again for me earlier this year, when our friend Saturn again plays a capital role in my life, and this time enters the sign of Pisces. And the sign of Pisces is a sign of, discoveries and awakening. This, planetary alignment this time was really revelatory for me and brought to my eyes a really good understanding of things that now I want to share with you. We are screwed because we think we need to know everything, and we want to know everything. So we have ChatGPT that answers to all of our questions. We really want to know everything about everything. And the problem is that the more we know, the better it will be. That's what we think. The more we know, the more we are in control, the better it will be. Nothing can go wrong if we control everything, we know everything, everything. Well, let me introduce you to my mentor, because I couldn't go out of this situation by myself or talking to other designers. So I had to turn towards somebody new that could give me a fresh perspective and teach me something that I have never heard before. So let me introduce you to the real star of today. And there we go. My mentor is baby Olivia. Olivia is a wonderful little girl. She's not my daughter. She is the daughter of my dear friend, Monica. And she is kind enough to let me hang out with this one. And, she has a very particular way to go about after everything in life, and is just playing. She just tries out everything is a toy for her. Post-it, laundry baskets, random things. She just, maybe, she doesn't get it right. She gets very nervous when the post-it stick to her finger like now. But, she goes just, she takes her time, she explores, she plays with everything. And that's her way of learning, growing, expanding, becoming better. So, Olivia has been kind enough to teach me 3 big things I would like to share with you today about the way I can change my practice as a designer. And really the tool, the single most important tool she puts in place, she uses in her everyday life, is really playing, at this dimension of playfulness and discovery through play. And then I started thinking, but wait a second, we have always been playing as human beings, always, in every time in history. Greeks, Romans were playing, football was invented there. In every culture around the world, there is a form of playing. Now, how did we lost this, how can I say, spontaneous dimension of playing? Because if I look at the way we play today, to me, there are 2 ways. One, playing as an adult looks like competitive playing. So either we are in a competition to win some sort of cup, or we are alone in front of a screen playing some sort of digital gaming. So what I can learn from here is that, what can I transport to the world of design? Well, to me, the triggers, the mind triggers that are activated by the activity of playing are really the same we need to sit comfortably in this divergent part of the spectrum. So our brain doesn't feel comfortable with mass, that's what we said before, but it really feels comfortable if it's in a playing context. So it's the safest way for us to learn about things, because there is little emotional engagement, little fear of consequences. We are just playing, so it doesn't matter if it goes wrong. That's the kind of mental freedom that we have lost, I guess, in putting too much pressure on finding the solution, instead of really enjoying the process of let our brain wander around a little bit, without too much strings attached, and see where does it goes. And it goes always somewhere. We just have to trust our own ability to play with it, and allow ourselves and also our coworkers, our clients, our team member to experience this dimension of playfulness without too much fear. Right? So how can we create those conditions? So to me, it becomes clearer and clearer what I need for myself. So what I need to myself is play to design. So being able to bring this dimension of playfulness into my design process, but at the same time, design something that will allow other people to play. So I'm not very much a supporter of other apps that will exclude me or my users from the rest of the world. I want them to get in a dimension of physical interaction where they are as well breaking some boundaries and borders and really play and connect with one another. That's what I want to go by, when I'm defining myself as a designer. And as I said, Olivia told me 3 important things that I would like to share today. The first one is key to play to design and design to play. To me, is unlearn. There are a number of things that we have to unlearn as designers if we want to be able to make this jump towards a more light-hearted and free way, creative way of doing our work. And I think that really in the past years, we have been somehow closing ourselves in a bubble more and more, becoming more and more difficult to reach and difficult for us to communicate outside the design community, who we are and what do we do. We have a very specific jargon, we talk a very specific language, we have tools that we know how to use, but maybe other people don't use. And again, that's where I think technology also played an important role, because the moment I see also with my designers, the moment we have a brief, an assignment that comes through, well, in 3 seconds, we have set up a board already online. We already are on Figma. We already have and this becomes very exclusive in the sense that really excludes everybody else from this place, because how many of your clients are really able to use Figma? How many of your coworkers are able to use Figma if they're not designers? Right? So somehow keeps us very much alone and separated from the other team members that we are supposed to be working with if we are working in multidisciplinary teams, right? So what do I mean by unlearning? I don't mean forgetting, but really is the ability to purposefully decide to use an alternative mental model, to shift our paradigms and do something in a different way. So instead of jumping straight to Figma, what else we can do? Instead of, immediately start prototyping on some sort of tool, what else can we do to actually be more inclusive and let everybody participate to the creative process as well and bring their 2 cents to the table? So I looked at examples of other companies that are already doing something like this. And the example that catch my attention was Amazon. Amazon already, since a few years, this book, Working Backwards, is not very new, but I don't know if many of you know about it, but they don't work with PowerPoint anymore. PowerPoint presentations are banned in Amazon. What do I mean by that is that if you walk in a room and you can tape on Google after, Amazon meeting, you will see a bunch of people sitting around the table and reading something on paper. That's their way of doing. So when you have to present an idea, you don't make a PowerPoint presentation with fancy animations and things like that. No, you write down what you want to talk about. You have to prepare a topic, a written topic that is going to be distributed to everybody. And the first half of the meeting is reading what we are discussing, what is the idea presented, and then discuss about it together. This to me is brilliant because everybody can write. Whoever this person is, designer or not, everybody can write. So already brings everybody to the same level of competence in a way. Nobody feels less than somebody else. So opens really the conversation for everybody to participate. Everybody can input on that. But it can be other things. Can be that we sketch on paper and it doesn't matter if I don't know how to draw. You may say, yes, but writing is complicated if you're not an English native speaker. It doesn't matter really because everybody can write as long as I can understand what is written. That's what is important, So I think this is really cool and also takes a step back. So allows me to use another mind frame other than opening Keynote and start composing some slides. Really forces me to look at the topic first instead of how nicely the topic can be presented. No, I have to think about the problem first. And this to me is key. And also allows me to collaborate and lengthening this path and this exploration phase in more of a human way, really bringing everybody on board and allowing everybody to input and grow the idea properly. Then we come to a point of maturity that is really starting to look like something. So I like this, stepping back from technology very much. The second thing that also Olivia made me realize, courage. That's really important. And I'm not talking about, being full of themselves. No, that's not the kind of courage I'm talking about. It's the kind of courage that Brené Brown describes in her books. So it's really coming to the board, coming to the table with an open heart. That's what we are talking about, being honest and having the conversations that needs to have on topics with our coworkers, with our clients. And again, having difficult conversations and really pointing the finger to the problem sometimes is very uncomfortable and very difficult and very painful. So we would naturally avoid that. Maybe we know that, maybe we're working on something and we know that the choice the client is making is wrong or doesn't have a very good longevity or is not going to be very sustainable or very inclusive or whatever. And we don't say anything because, we are too late in the stage now. We cannot really reopen that discussion. This will mean we screw up our timelines. That's the moment to talk anyway. And if you don't do that, nobody else will. That's the issue. So I would like to share with you a case from Frog. This is we were called by a pharmaceutical company to work for an app that was directed to patients with users with cardiac diseases. And the app is supposed to give them, to keep them on track on their medications, but also adopting healthier habits in their life, a daily walk, stand up after a while they are sitting in front of the TV, walking their dog, eating more vegetables, drinking appropriately, a good amount of water, all of this. And what we realized is that we started designing for this app, and the app was working, was functional with the things we have understood from the round of interviews. So human research was done, app was designed, MVP was out, everything was fine, except the fact that nobody was really using it. And we were like, what's going on here? How can it be? If everything, the process is followed, right? We are good. What are we missing here? And the major point is that probably we haven't heard enough from the people. So we had to take a step back, have this tough conversation and say, look, we think we may have the need to talk again to those users. And, those majority of them were elder people, and try really to understand what is that we missed in the first round of interviews. So we did. And what we missed was kind of a very important insight that, yes, they want to receive suggestions on how to make their life better and their longevity, longer, but they wanted to hear this from a friend, not from an app. So they didn't want to receive a notification that comes up on your screen. They wanted a vocal message. They wanted something that looked more human, as if their doctor was talking to them, as if, somebody they trust was talking to them, not a machine. And this piece was what we had missed in the beginning. So again, focused my attention on the importance of having these conversations and take a step back when we think we are doing something wrong or that can come out in a outcome that is not fully mature, but also, made me realize how important it is to really listen and really be investigating appropriately on the topics we work for, on the human side in particular, because, every automated tool can find solutions very well, much faster and much better than me. But the only thing I can do well is understanding the needs of other humans. This is what I'm programmed for as a human being in the first place. There are no other animals that, intercept each other's needs well as humans can. So this is my number one priority, and is actually for me the things that we have to push ourselves to in the future and become master of understanding each other. And we can only do that if we do this physically, in a real interaction. And that's why I want to design for it, because really there is a difference between things and services that are produced or things and services that are designed. And to me, this is the difference. How much we have really understood and we have really learned from other human beings then brings us in a dimension of design. Otherwise, we stay in a dimension of pure producing products that maybe, have the relevance they have. I'm sure you have a bunch of apps on your phone that you never use, bunch of objects in your home. Maybe you have 2 or 3 different, milk boilers or rice cookers because, you know, you bought one and it was not really what you thought it was, and then you bought another one, and then you bought another one. Produced versus design, not the same. We are the difference between those two. And then the last thing I really understood is own it, you know, what is your why? That's what I started thinking about. Now you have understood what my why is, but really what is your why to be in this profession? And really the moment you find your why, I like this phrase a lot, you will also find your way. Because, you know, we are, you know, design is a very good profession, but without a strong why, I think it becomes kind of a commodity or like something you do for a paycheck. And that's a pity. For me, you understood is the value of emotion. And that's very, very, very important for me, and the value this can give in a human context. And I want to share with you another project where I really got confronted with this. And it was at the moment I worked for the Paralympic Committee. So I was designing the identity of Parasport, which is their grassroots programs. So, you know, the Paralympic Committee from the Paralympic Games, and this is the, you know, the shining top part of the para athletes out there. But there is everybody else that is also playing a game, any sport, since they are very young, and it's very good giving them a sense of community, bringing them in an environment that makes them feel safe and able to express themselves. But this program of, you know, development of those athletes didn't have an identity. And so I was working in a company that was called to design this. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. But wait a second, this is another universe. I am fully able, apart from my glasses, but I say I'm 98% fully able. So how can I now, you know, understand the need of other people that are so different from me? So I really had to spend some time on a wheelchair as well, and play. Me and my colleagues went out playing wheelchair basketball. And really it's not that easy as it looks like. And also, you know, it was important to shift my perspective to the one of my users, considering that really the thing that it was striking me is that they perfectly know that, you know, nothing in this world has been designed with them in mind. So, you know, we're not talking about a small missing piece. It's a very important lack of attention from us as designers. So, you know, in the end, me and the team, we designed an identity that was made of many more colors, not just one, not just black and white, not just one color, but many colors, because we have to cover for every kind of visual impairment. We also looked at different materials and textures so that it could be felt and perceived through other senses. And we even looked at, of course, there is everyone in this. My users were everyone with many different levels of disability and impairments. So what do we do for people that don't see or people that don't hear? And well, we designed as well a sonic branding, so a sonic identity for the brand that was also transcribed into an ambisonic identity. What is an ambisonic? Is a system that allows to transform music into vibrations, so that can be perceived through the phone or through the chairs of particular stadiums in the world. So even people that cannot see and cannot hear could perceive the music in their bones. So then we were completely inclusive and completely open to everything. And again, I want to stress the fact that there is no artificial intelligence that can solve any of those issues right now. You are the intelligence that can solve and should solve those kind of issues. And I'm taking a little step back to, you know, my why and your why. Is it very important that you define what you stand for? You know, if you want to design for human interaction, if you want to design for minorities, or so-called, if you want to design for, you know, everything we have forgotten so far, what is that you really are here for? Because our role as a designer, as you may have understood by now, is a lot more fluid and blurred than we think it is. We don't work for a bank, you know, where we enter in professional mode at 9 a.m. and we switch off at 5 p.m. We go out and we are good. And then we have another life. No, I think our mind of designer mind works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it doesn't matter what you're doing, you observe the world, you perceive the world, you understand the world in a different way because you have this mentality always switched on. So the more you understand why and what is that you want to get out from your life as a designer, the better it is, because it will keep all of the rest of your life together, right? So, I think I have spoken enough now. Are you ready to go out and play a little bit more? That's my question. And that's all for me. Thank you very much. I'm going to stop sharing and see the chat.
It's very thought-provoking, and yeah, I saw, yeah, there are quite a few topics that interest me personally, but you guys in the call, if you would like, now is the time to turn on your cameras and mics, and you can start asking your questions to Carla. There weren't any. Oh, wait, there's one question in the chat, Carla, and that is, what is a unique experience?
What is a unique experience? Well, there are many sorts of unique experiences. It's more for you. I mean, for me, the unique experience was certainly working with the Paralympic Committee, that's for sure, because it really pushed my why much further. You know, I could not say I wanted to do something there. I had the opportunity to do that, to really make a difference in the life of those guys. So that's to me, what a unique experience would be for you, you know? I see another question coming. How your personal why can match with the why of your company? I think I'm actually in a very comfortable situation, because the attention to the human insight and the centrality of humans is capital for frogs in general. So I think I am in a very good place, but I have not always been in this place, that's for sure. So I arrived in Frog a year and a half ago. Before that, I was working for other businesses and I was liking my job, but I needed to change because I could really see that this was not aligned with my expectations, with my values and where I wanted to be as a human, but also as a designer. So I had to take a change. So, and it took me some time first to realize what is that was offset. And then second, where I could find what I was looking for. And that's then I have been very purposeful and very also, you know, strong-headed in like trying. I will make that move, you know, and I will find where I'm more suited. And I'm not saying it's super easy, and I have a lot of things to learn. I am, you know, still we are always in progress and on a learning path, but I really took a leap of faith, and I'm very glad I did, because I really at some point lost hope. I was like, okay, I don't want to be a designer anymore. Maybe I should open one of those coffee bakeries, you know, become a paste, you know, a baker, or, you know, start a pastry business, something else where I can be creative, but without the burdens of the business world. And I think I would have made a big mistake, because I would be very sad, I guess. So I still want to be a designer. That's what I really wanted to do since day one. And since 1997, remember Saturn, all of that. But I wanted to do this in another way. So sometimes you need to take a 180-degree turn and hope for the best, but just do it. Coming back is always easy. It's going away that is more complex. Once you know what you leave, you don't know what you find. That's what we say in Italian. But,
yeah. We have 2 more questions.
Yes.
Shall I just read it out to you for your convenience? Wasn't it sometimes scary to know that you will have your own why?
Scary. I don't think it's scary. I don't know. Personally, I find more scary not to know what it is, my why, because then it's much more difficult to make choices, right? If you don't know, I think it's a way of knowing yourself as well. The more you know about yourself, the more considered you can be and precise in saying yes or no to things. And sometimes, I find it personally more scary not to know. And it took me a while. Again, it's not a clarity that came, from the first year in my career. Immediately, I know what's my why. No. It took me some time, and it also, I had to connect some dots, looking at all of the things that I do in my life, not just in design, but also outside. I am a life coach as well. I like to spend time talking to people, understanding from them. So that's generally the way I also live my friendships or my relationship with my family. So at some point I said, well, there is something here, there is a foundation, and the foundation is really building some very close connections with the people. That's what I like doing the most. So that's probably what I'm good at in my job as well. That's what I should be doing instead of designing maybe fancy, screens, but by myself. I know I want to be in a team. I also try to be a freelancer, and it was horrible for me because I was cut from this human connected dimension. So, at some point, as I said, you have to take some choices, make some mistakes, but I prefer to be now clear with what is my why, and now I can make more informed choices than not knowing. So to me, it's scarier not to know.
Where do you get your references for your designs and optimize them for your design?
Well, references are everywhere. So I am very curious about many different things. So it can be anything. As I said, I studied anthropology after design. So just to give an idea of how discrepant I can be with myself, but like really white and black. So I think you have to, we are all curious about certain things. I don't believe people that say, I don't know, I don't have any particular hobby. No, for sure you have one. Even watching TV is an hobby. So I think people have their ways, to find the references. I look at everything, especially in psychology, in sociology. That's because I have a personal interest for that. But I find a lot of, I find it interesting to understand the evolving of the society we live in, and then that gives me a lot of understanding of where we are going, what's coming next, what are the people thinking, what is happening around the globe, and then this informs my design thinking as well.
Somebody mentioned that making a pastry shop requires a lot of design too. And then they asked you if you've ever tried working in hospitality companies before to enhance the user experience and social problems.
Well, yes, first, I agree with you. Pastry requires a lot of design. And that's why I thought about pastry in the first place, because it was a mini act of design. But I also understood I don't like to repeat the same things over and over again. So I wouldn't have been a good pastry, because you have to repeat the same recipes for years, maybe, if it's something that works, like the guy who invented the cronut, I think he wants to kill himself now because he will be baking cronuts for the rest of his life. So I would have been extremely bored. I need a variety and I need to change topic. But talking about the hospitality businesses, no, unfortunately, I haven't had many chances to work in hospitality, and I think it's something that really deserves a lot of attention, to be honest. And no, I haven't got that chance yet, but hopefully soon. So that is.
It's funny because I also considered getting a bakery once.
I think we have all at some point, we have said, maybe I should open a bar, maybe I should open a restaurant or whatever. I think many of us has been there.
Yeah, so there are a couple of more questions. Guys, you're also welcome to ask your questions via microphone or camera. Some of my whys are just because of the fact that I really enjoy spending my time doing. Is that the same as something like purpose? Is one more important than the other while trying to choose or narrow down the side of design to pursue?
I think I would give the same, to me are synonyms, you know, your why and your purpose are the same. I think your why explicits in a purpose. So yeah, I think it's the same thing. And, you know, what I really mean, what is really motivating you at the bottom of your heart, you know for sure, maybe you are doing something right now in your work, your job title or your job list has something that you know you don't want to do, you know, or there is something else that you really want to do instead. So that's what I call the why, which is absolutely a purpose. Yeah.
So there's somebody who would like to have a chat with you, and I'm sure that they can connect with you on LinkedIn. And,
yes,
that's possible.
Yes, sure. Under my name. So
yeah.
I have been creative enough to come up with a different name. So
somebody is joining by camera, it seems. Yeah, Akil,
Hi.
you may go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Just as like a follow-up to my question about the purpose versus, you know, something that I'm just interested in doing, right? My question was a little more about, like, you know, there are certain things that I enjoy spending my time doing. I don't know if if it's particularly useful to like a commercial, you know, perspective or something like that, versus developing like the skill set which I can use in a career, to put it in, you know, like words that are more well known. I'm just like confused in terms of like, especially with respect to so many subsystems within like the design industry. For example, I really love a lot of things to do with, for example, brewing coffee. And there are a lot of things I can pursue on the design side of, you know, the coffee experience, or brewing coffee itself, or selling coffee, all of that stuff. But I don't know if that is too specific a thing to delve into, versus, you know, say my experience till now has been with video content and, you know, advertising, marketing, all of that stuff. Is it better? And I have definitely found myself enjoying doing that stuff as well. One of them is a more established industry. There are better defined pathways to grow in one side over there. Both of them seem like good enough whys to me. But you know, is there one which is like, is there merit in following a more structured path, or just going into something which is a little more unknown?
well, I think wait, so these are you are asking me if it's better if you open a coffee shop, or if it's better?
No, not that way.
No,
Just,
I understand. I understand, but I would invite you, so you are very in the action right now. So you're telling me I like brewing coffee, la, la, la. What is that you particularly like in brewing the coffee? What
Right.
is that? Is it the sensorial part? Is it the fact that it is a very meticulous process? So you have to be careful at the temperature, at the setup of the machine, at the choice of the beans, the quantity of the beans, because this tells a lot of what is your underlying motivation. So, you know, maybe what you're very good at is meticulously calculating things. So that is your secret power, you know, is in the attention and meticulous choice of things, in the control step by step, in the, you know, planning out those actions, and, you know, almost engineering of this service, for example, you know. So maybe that's what is interesting you, and that's the same level of meticulousness that you find in working on a timeline in a movie. That you have to be super meticulous in defining when your next slide should come in, or when your, you know, something else should appear on screen, or your text should come in, or your sound should be perfectly matching the images. So I think it's, you know, this kind of taking a step back, you know, if I zoom out from this particular duty, coffee, what is that I really enjoy in there? Or if I particularly enjoy, I don't know, something else, you know, what is really beside the actions, what is the emotional fulfillment I get? I'm really happy because I could control every step, or make me very happy because it's so precise, or, you know, there is something that defines the kind of core competencies, the core mindset and skill set that you have, and then that can be applied to anything else. It's what makes you, you know, you are particularly meticulous. Great. So you can be a great service designer, or a great, whatever great, if you go about this with this meticulous lens, for example. I don't know if I'm clear.
Yeah, yes. Thanks. That actually helps a lot. Are there any like tools or like particular sets of questions I can sort of ask myself to help me break this down better? Because
Yes.
I think that process is really important.
Yes. So look, in life coaching, we use a fantastic methodology, which is called the 5 why. So you don't ask yourself why once. You go ask it 5 times. So if you say, I really like brewing coffee. Why? Well, because it smells good, makes me feel happy. And why does it makes you feel happy? Well, because, you know, reminds me of the activity I was doing with my grandmother when da, da, da. And why does it make you think about your grandmother? Because the joy was the same. Okay, then that's why you're brewing coffee. Because of joy that it brings you. So if you, it's like a funnel. You started giving a very broad answer, then you ask yourself why this, and then why this, and then why this, and then why this, and then you will end up in a place where you will start going in circles, and more or less the answers will always be the same. That is your why.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Any more questions?
It seems there's one online. As a designer has a huge impact not only on the customers, but also on the other team members, like programmers. Good design influences other team members. As a programmer, I enjoy working when our product has a good and meaningful design too. Okay, so I guess that is more of a comment than a question.
Yes, and of course, yes, and I really agree with that, because the role of the designer is more and more, you know, mature. I think we are expected in the companies where we are, in Frog as well, for example, we are expected to bring a lot of, to be like a spider in his own net. You know, we have to, you know, be able to bridge many different people with different competencies. You know, you design something, you design DLS, okay, design language system, great. Now I also have to be able to communicate with technologists. I also have to be able to communicate with, the librarians that will maintain it. It's a web, and we are asked, more and more to be this strategic bond that connects all of those different competencies together and is able to nourish them and give them what they need, communicate and ending over, but also just inform each other in the best way. So we have a huge impact on the rest of the ecosystem we are interacting with.
I guess, shall we do Prakar first, and then there's another question in the chat. You're muted.
Can you listen to me now?
Yes.
Hi, Carla. Great presentation. I was really impressed with everything that you've talked about, and I've kind of been lucky today that I was able to follow through everything that was being talked about, but not lucky enough to have the ability to keep it all in your head and then ask a question. But there are a few things that I can recall from the back of my head right now, which would be, first of all, the form follows emotion, the ideology of frog. That's something new to me. And I have always stuck with the ideology of form follows function because of my previous interest in architecture and how that kind of lays the premise for design in a lot of cases. And then there was the double diamond dilemma. Is it good or is it bad? And the presentation sort of ended with, the golden rule given to most of the people by Simon Sinek, which is asking your why. And if I tie both of these contrasting things together, finding your why and the double diamond, it sort of puts me in a position where I would feel of myself as an advocate for double diamond, because it kind of asks you to lay emphasis on the why and start with why first, and then have a completely different cycle where you reach towards the solution.
Yes.
So in that sense, I think I sort of am speaking like an advocate for double diamond, but I would let that be a more let's say structured question, and I will try to find time to follow through the entire presentation again and note down my questions and write it to you so that you can also formulate a better answer. But I think the highlight would be one very key factor that I think we're leaving behind with all this hype of AI is that something you've mentioned and not a lot of people are talking about is that you really have to pull the plug to find a lot of solutions, and AI will not be able to do that.
Yes. So no, I agree with you. The double diamond is not that we don't have to use it. It's still the way to go to me. What I am questioning is the perfect symmetry that is presented there, because in reality, it's not like that. I mean, I don't know, maybe you are luckier than me, but in my everyday job, it's not like this. So we have very limited time or we allow ourselves very limited time for exploration, better said. We deliberately want to move fast for many reasons. It's uncomfortable. The clients is also uncomfortable. They want to see some solutions at some point, I don't know if you ever tried to show your clients the board with all the million post-it, they will go nuts. Like, wait a second, we called you because you were going to bring us a solution. This is a mess. Where is my solution? So, I think for many reasons, we have somehow agreed without agreeing in cutting the research part away, but is fundamental. That's what I'm trying to say, that we should give ourselves permission to get back into research solidly, because that's the only thing that will set us apart from machines, I think. Everything else can be done by a machine. And I also question, the fact that we want to find universal solutions. We are asked to do that by our clients a lot more. Like, okay, find me a service that works for everybody. What? ChatGPT can do that. I am able to find you solutions for the most difficult clients, users in your journeys, not the common journeys, the particular ones. That's where we are, where a designer makes a difference. For the rest, universal solution, yeah, automatize that. That's fine. Solutions cannot be universal anymore. We have to be precisely particular. That's why form follows emotion for me works much better than form follows function. Otherwise, I hear that this is very common in architecture. And in fact, if we look at the shapes of the buildings we have, at some point, somebody decided that the function was better represented by something rectangular, like these parallelepipeds, these rectangular buildings, these towers are everywhere. No matter if you are in New York, in Mumbai, in Paris, in Milan, it's the same. Boom, building units like that. Is it adapted to the landscape? No. Is it adapted to the weather, to the climate situation of the no. This typical example of something that has been built, but not designed, because if it was designed, probably, houses in Indonesia will still be made of wood because resist better the salt from the sea, from the ocean all around the islands, would better live in time, would be more sustainable, less invasive. Houses in Italy would be made of certain materials because it's very hot. Or, houses in the Netherlands, where I am at the moment, are made of other materials that better resist the terrible rains, wind, blah, blah, blah. So we have at some point defined a standard, which was, functionally working better because we can accommodate more people in there. So let's go for it. But is, fundamentally wrong. Or, very limiting, is a very good problem solution, right? We have cut away all the typical example of the double diamond not in action. Fantastic solution, horrible problem focused. It's not,
the consequences are even worse. And yes. I think, that's, one of my talks is about the human connection. And I always have this vision that, at a certain stage in our history, we started putting emotion in a box. Oh, emotion is bad. And I believe emotion to be a very strong sense that can tell you a lot about your world and your place in it. And so we've become basically senseless in many ways. And I've seen this in law, I've seen it in education, politics, everywhere. And the consequences of that is dramatic on human lives. Yeah. So I completely resonate with Frog's motto, and I think it's really valuable. We have a next question, and that relates to designing workspaces. Mm-hmm. And they're asking if Corona affected the current design of workspaces, or people are just back to work the same way.
Yes, so that's a very interesting topic, and I think we are not giving enough attention, to the employee experience. Companies are not giving enough attention to the employee experience, but it is really very strongly affected by Corona. That's for sure. So I think there is a very different need now. So a good employer, I think, should really spend some time in defining what is that their crowd need when they go to the office. Yes, they ask to go back to the office maybe 2 days per week, 3 days per week. So, but what you look for in an office space is very different. So, it's less about cubicles where you can work heads down. This you can do from home, honestly, in a much more comfortable way. I have all this space and I can be quiet. Why do I have to go to the office when I have to write about a topic or prepare a pitch document. No, I will do this at home. If I go to the office, it's because I want to be connected with my colleagues. That's where I want more social spaces, more meeting spaces, more communal areas, more screens with plenty of couches around, so we can all together brainstorm on something. That's what I would, what I see is the requirement of the workers today. They don't want to go to the office because they have to sit down alone and work on their PowerPoint. This they can do from everywhere else. So the request is much different. The human need now is not to go there and then be productive. I want to go there and then be inspired, solicited, reboosted, that's what, and many companies don't get that either. So I see a lot of still office buildings everywhere that are half empty, and it breaks my heart. They can also make some deliberate decisions of, for example, closing completely, 2 days per week, because it's useless as well to spend all of that energy for something that is not used fully. So. But yeah, it's definitely a topic that needs care, and I don't see that in place.
I think it's the perfect timing, because our next event is actually about the employee experience, and particularly about onboarding. And yeah, it was raised by Victoria Wainsberg, and she's assembled this panel for us today. And that is on at 6 this evening. So perhaps we can continue the conversation there as well. I think we've had quite a lot of broad topics in this conversation. And yeah, they're all very much linked. The panel is at 6 o'clock this evening. I will share a link in the chat in a moment. But you can also find Carla's experience portal in the chat, and there we'll add the recording of this event. And you can also find the event last Monday, where Carla partook in another panel featuring Don Norman himself. And as a UX community, the father of UX, who really made it special, Carla made it special along with the other panel members. Sorry. And you can find that all on her experience portal. This video will be edited and added there. And Carla is there. I think we scheduled an hour. It's already a bit past. Thank you for your time and staying this long. Do you have any final words, or do you want to take some more questions?
Well, no, I not particular final words, other than really, we have to like what we do. It makes your life easier. Let's put it this way. Then if your real passion is baking biscuits, go for it. As long as you're happy, that's fantastic. But really, yeah, in the moment that's my final word, maybe.
Yeah. All right. Well, I could carry the conversation on with you forever, Carla. I hope that you join the network, and that we do get some time to have more thorough conversations in the future. Thank you very much for the thoughtful talk, and the interest, and thank you everybody who joined us for your questions and your participation. Do leave your links in the chat to network. I think there's one more. Yes, that's just a thank you note. So then I think, are we good to end, or shall we continue? Or
yeah, good to end then.
Right.
Well, thank you very much, Candice, for finding me first, and then for organizing all of this. Just without Candice, nobody would be in this call. Voila. Great.
Well, thank you for being an inspiration.
Thank you very much.
All right, and also check out the Interaction Design Foundation in the Netherlands.
Yes. Great.
on LinkedIn there's quite a lot of content that's really also thought-provoking. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye and see you next time, maybe later on this evening in our next event.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.